What's up? What's up, Facebook? So today with us is the co-founders of the 100 Young and Hungry group. You know them by now, Brayden and Garrett Terrell. And today we have a special guest especially to me, Mr. Al Stasek. What's up, Al?
Hey, fellas, what's up?
Doing good, doing good. So I first just want to say thank Al for taking time, hopping on with us and giving some good insight here. And the reason why we're here today is basically we're going to talk about the importance of having a mentor. And he happens to be one of my mentors. So we wanted to dive deeper on what it means to be a mentor, how you choose one, and the dynamic of not just being a mentor, but being the mentee and just kind of both sides of the relationship. So before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to let Brayden and Garrett take it away with just some questions they want to ask both of us.
Right on. Awesome, man. So, Al, I got a few questions. We got this group here, Young and Hungry, kind of as an accountability group, but also, trying to, kind of mastermind, share ideas and things like that. And, from the coaching I've had, I'm sure, having a mentor in place is, a pretty big deal, especially in real estate, to continue to keep growing and learning new things. What would you say, as getting a mentor in place, having one, not having one from going to one, what would you say the biggest impact that would you say was on your real estate career from not having a mentor to putting a mentor in place and the right mentor in place?
Well, it was every difference in the world. So, my kind of backstory, which, if you don't mind, I think it's kind of relevant to tell you guys, where I came from and, what got me here. And I'll promise to make it brief. But, I came into this business much different than I think the experience that you guys are coming in. And I'm not saying that I have regrets. It just was what it was. And I know that Nick likes to say, he's so nice. He calls me seasoned. That's why I'm not allowed in your group. But the truth of the matter is, although I look like I'm 23, I'm not. Believe it or not, I'm not 23. And so I got into the business in 1998, which ironically in 1998, I believe it was about your dad, who is my good friend Jay Kinder, got in, I believe, in 97 or like he was 6 months ahead of me or something. Like when we got our license, we didn't know who each other were, and we wouldn't know each other for a good 12 years after we first got our license. And, prior to that, I was really in search of a better way. I was constantly buying things very similar to your dad, Brayden. I was out buying everything in a box. And at the end of the day, because it was the one thing I didn't have is I couldn't afford a coach. I couldn't afford to pay a high-end coach. And this is really no cut on my first office because I have the utmost respect for the people that I started with in the business because they did teach me some stuff, but they also, it wasn't a environment for abundance. It was actually an environment, very much a scarcity environment. So I kind of went into an old school. If you guys want something cool to watch, and I don't know, if the Young and Hungry group has been exposed to Glenn Ross, but that is an old school throwback movie that is really funny, but it's kind of what things were back in the day. You guys might think that was just a movie, and it was a movie, and it's not based on any truth, but the true parts about it were how real estate offices were back in like the 80s. Now, I wasn't in real estate then, but I used to follow my dad into the office because he was a real estate agent then. And I would just hang out as a little kid walking to these offices, and it was brutal. People just cussing, swearing, smoking in the office, like not caring. There was like the culture was the most like if you would plop somebody in an office like that's a today's real estate agent in that office back then, you would think that you were in like some kind of bad, you woke up in a nightmare or something. It was, and that wasn't like what it was all day long, but I'm just saying it wasn't an environment. Everything was scarce. You're in competition with the guy right next to you. And there's a certain degree of that still today, but the difference is there's a lot more information out. When the internet became a tool of real estate agents, everything started going out there. And that's how I met my mentors. I got another email list, and they were emailing me free videos and things to watch and how I could list for sale by owners better and the scripts and dialogues. So, it was just a different time. And I'm super excited about our time right now because there's never been a better time. And I look around and I smile because I went from starting my company where I was the youngest person in my company. In other words, all of my employees and all my agents were all older than me when I first started my team. And now it's the reverse. And not completely. I have a couple people that inch me out in the age category, but I have people like you guys coming in, and they're forming a great culture, and they're finding mentors because that is part of our culture, is helping people and reaching down. And I don't know, Nick, I don't want to spoil your, plus minus equals thing, but that's kind of what you guys are. When you guys have been coming up into the business, it's been that attitude. So I think you guys are, you're very fortunate to be in the spot you're in.
I agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got another question for you, Al. Again, thanks for joining with us and answering our questions. And we're just going to be sponges for a little bit and try to soak up as much knowledge as we can. But I think a cool question would be, at one point in your career, did you realize that you were an actual mentor to other people and younger agents? And what impact did that have on your life, becoming a mentor to other people and helping people out?
So when?
Yeah.
That probably happened in 2004 or 2005-ish, right around in those years. I was part of a small independent discount brokerage that was local here in Cleveland, and that brokerage, I didn't have any ownership of that brokerage, but our owner checked out big time, and I was pretty much kind of left in charge of, not officially but unofficially, the person that people would come to with questions about this or questions about that. And I got out of that situation pretty quickly because I really didn't have any ownership in the company. And I found myself building someone else's company while they sat home all day. So I got myself out of that situation and started my own team at Remax in 2007, and really had no idea what I was doing. But I was still seeking. I was still seeking the way. I was still seeking, always out looking. And luckily, I did come across, and I mean, my broker at Remax was great. There's different levels of mentorship too. Somebody can come into your life, and even if they have the smallest amount of impact on it in a positive way, obviously, then you could, I suppose, call them a mentor. So I've had mentors, but I think the biggest mentorship came is when I actually, got into coaching. And that was when I was introduced to Kinder Reese in 2010. I was introduced to them. I hired them as a coach, and all of a sudden, I had a lot of mentors around me, and I was being put around folks that were at different levels than I was. What was really cool about that experience is the more I got to know them and be friends with them, the more I started figuring out they were just like me. The only difference is I just hadn't experienced what they had experienced yet, and I haven't learned what they had learned yet. That was the only difference. But I think that when you look at people who have seen a tremendous, when you look at someone else, and let's say you're looking up at someone who's had a tremendous amount of success, if you don't really get to know them, you think that maybe they're special, or maybe they have some superpower, or maybe they got lucky or whatever. But at the end of the day, all they did was learn something. And by the way, we all know what lessons, in order to learn a lesson, sometimes you got to fall hard, So a lot of times those people you're looking up to have fallen hard. And, usually that's oftentimes some part of their story, so.
Right. So, on that topic, transitioning, Al, like you said, from being the mentee and then the mentor, kind of your take on what would you say, as us, of course, we're still the mentees, we're still looking for the mentors and the right people to put in place to help us, grow in whatever area it may be. What would you say are some of the most important things to take into consideration when you are looking, to find that right mentor?
Well, I think that that's a very important question. And I think the reason is because, especially, for as much as my first comment is that we didn't have all of those the internet wasn't a big thing when I first got licensed. So you had to go out and reach out and find them. Well, now the opposite, you can find lots of people who call themselves a guru, and they may not know shit about what they're talking about. And if you start following the wrong person just because maybe they're good on camera, they could lead you down the wrong path. And so I think I think that you want to look for someone who has the same core values that you do. And that's kind of hard to do just by face value. You actually have to have conversations and get to know them. And you also have to look at their track record. There's a lot of real estate coaches out there today who's never actually put a sign in the yard and actually sold a house. Maybe they're, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe they're born into the coaching world. And I'm not certainly mentioning any names here, but there are a lot out there that claim to be this, guru or whatever, but they've actually never done the work. So look up to someone who's actually has a track record and, look at their integrity. Look at, I'm not saying you listen to everybody around there, but if you got a lot of people that got burned by that person, obviously you want to steer clear, of people like that. And there's a lot out there. So, I mean, clearing through the noise. I know that there's people that hire a coach and they stay with that coach or mentor for a while, and then they kind of either outgrow them or maybe they're just not a right fit, so they find another one. Now, I personally have been with the same few coaches and mentors for quite a few years, and you can call that luck or whatever. Maybe I did get lucky. I don't know. But it took me quite a few years to find the group that I surround myself with right now. Like I said, I started in 98 and I didn't find my gang until 2010, 12 years. So,
Gotcha.
Don't keep digging a hole in the wrong spot. If you know you're digging, if you're in, if you have the wrong circle, wrong environment, get out of it, and find yourself one.
No, that's really good. That kind of plays into what I was going to ask. I have a question now for Nick on the other side. So Nick, what about Al stood out to you in terms of being a mentee and why you wanted him, in your circle of people, and why you guys are in the same marketplace, you obviously work together. What stood out about Al and why you wanted to be mentored by him?
Well, I'd like to start by when I remember when I was in the office, I think Al was in Dallas or he was on vacation for the very first week that I was personally in the office. And everybody around there's like, oh, watch out for Al. When he comes in there, you're the new guy. They're trying to not scare me, but they were kind of mess with me in a sense. So I'm sitting there in my corner when Al's finally coming in. It helped right away that I actually played football with somebody, Austin Smith, who's who was that to you?
My nephew.
Exactly. Your nephew. So yeah, I played football with his nephew. So I was sitting there scared the first time I met him because everyone in the office was messing with me. And then he's like, "Oh, you played football with my nephew." So right away I'm like, okay, I was a little relieved. But I would say, especially with Al, obviously he's very successful. He's very successful at what he does. But like kind of touching on what he said about the core values was what really stuck. Because I mean, especially in this industry, you're around a lot of successful people, but the core values and then seeing them actually live it on top of it is what sets it apart. I think since the first day I put on my 100-0, unless I gave it to somebody for the same reason, I haven't taken off 100-0 off my wrist. Yeah, 100-0.
Nice.
That's something where it truly did change more than just anything like in business, like outside of business. And I know I've talked to Al about this a lot. It's a big thing that I was missing in my life before coming into this. Especially, just coming from the experiences that I had, the one thing I was lacking was the accountability, and even more so just to myself. And just seeing Al not just talk about it, because you see a lot of people talk about their core values, but actually live it. I think that was the biggest thing that made me see, like, man, I want to be like Al inside and outside of work. So it's kind of just like all around, just embodying what he said. And there's a lot of instances where it just followed through, where like when the situation actually arrives, he stuck by his core values. And that just goes to show it's like you want to be like somebody like that. And that's one of the main things that I always look for. It's like, do I want to be like them? If it's a yes, then it checks the box. If it's a no, then you kind of keep looking.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
on that topic, Nick, you know, kind of like looking back in the rear view from when, you know, you first met Al and where you were at either, you know, in your business or your personal life. And then fast forward to today, I mean, what kind of impact and I guess progress over time do you think you've made by, you know, having that right mentor in place?
Man, so that's about like a 4-year fast forward, I would say, since I first met Al.
Right.
So like where I was at. So this is more than I've shared on any live. So it's a great question. So basically where I was at, just like, again, a quick recap. I played 1 year of high school football, got all state, ended up going to college for it because it was like a natural gift. Messed that up bad. Basically, after that, spent about 3 years working different jobs, whether it's like construction, working on different homes, painting, just a bunch of things. Basically not being able to admit that I messed up an opportunity that I liked. And then it was actually a day before I was about to work at some factory job that I really didn't want to do. I got a call to come work at Al's office through Matt Milia, who's my cousin's husband. Reached out to me. He's like, oh, we were looking for somebody in sales. So I'm like, yes, I was looking for a sales job, but nothing was popping up. So I was just going to take the factory job. And probably to this day, I would have been there if I didn't get that call. But I got the call. And so basically where I was at was just taking no accountability, no ownership to the mistakes that I made up until that point. And that's when 100-0 really got really entered my life. When I saw it being acted, saw everybody in the office embodying it, the entire office embodying the core values. So then fast forward 2 years, I started as a caller. Now my brother and I, we own our own content advising company for real estate agents, basically helping the agents using the internet. Ownership becomes easy now. Your life becomes a lot easier when you realize you're in control of everything. We started a great group like this. We're co-founders of a nonprofit organization, and my brother's going over to Thailand now. I just wrote a book, the Community Champ book, just released it today too. So business-wise, it's changed a lot. I'm there a lot more with my family. I'm doing a lot more of the right things. And just as a whole, I would say just the accountability factor and the core values being instilled and actually living by them is like the biggest impact it's made. And that's where we're at right now.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's really good. So, so now transitioning over to Al, I want to hear your thoughts about this and kind of pick apart your brain. What do you think about the group that we have going on over here with the 100-0 group, with the agents under 30 years old? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, what's there not to say about a group of young people who are taking a concept that, by the way, 100-0, this was not mine. I found it somewhere. In fact, Jake Kinder, your dad, Brayden, was the one who introduced me to a video. And it was a little bit of a different concept with it, but I just took that and we've kind of made it our own. And seeing it spread, not just all over Cleveland, not just all over Ohio, but literally all over the country. I mean, I got, pride is the first thing that comes. I'm so proud of not just Brayden and Nick and you, but everyone who you've actually attracted to your group. That's where the proof is. 3 guys in their 20s can come up with an idea and say, hey, this would be fun. But unless you're actually attracting the crowd and as leaders, then it was just an idea. And you guys are proving that, like, man, it's not just an idea. You're turning it into a movement because people are following you. And I you guys don't know this. Nick, I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I can't count on two hands how many times I've said to my wife, Patty, and I'm like, you should see these guys. They're killing it. Or look at them on social over here and watching your lives. This, or that, when I heard that you formed the group, I was just super proud. And, but I will say this, I'm not surprised. I'm proud, but not surprised because, the flip side of the coin, and I appreciate everything that you said, Nick. Those are kind words, and I appreciate it. But the other side of this is I only want to work with people who I can add value to their lives, and in turn, they add value back to my life. And if I can't add value to somebody's life, or they aren't adding value to the people around us, then I have really no use for them in my life. When you start to get a little older like me, or seasoned, when you get a little slap your mama seasoning on there, like me. By the way, I'm not suggesting you slap your mama. That's the name of a seasoning. It's my favorite seasoning. If you follow me on social media, you know I put it on everything: eggs, pizza, you name it. But once you get seasoned and you just start climbing over, and you guys will see this. You'll see this, and maybe you'll remember back to this live and say, "Yeah, I remember when Al was saying that." It felt like when I was in my 20s, my funnel, my top of funnel for people that were in my life, it was wide open. And I just was bringing pretty much anybody in. And I guess that's okay if you have a real good filter for filtering out the bad. But at first, I didn't have a good filter for that. I was definitely hanging out with people who were losers. And it didn't mean that they weren't nice people, but they didn't align with my core values. They were always bitching about the man. They were excuse makers. They were victims. And, today, because I'm so clear on who I want to surround myself with, Nick was easy. That was easy to surround myself with Nick and his brother Mike and Brayden and you, because you're learners, you're growers. And those types of people will what ends up happening, especially when you got a group like this, you start attracting these like-minded people and then you look up and you're like, man, we all align. That's because you believe the same thing. And something magical happens. And it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. I mean, you guys are kind of at the beginning stages of this, but you will see, because here's the thing. You're on the right path. You're just going to need to trust me. I know you're on the right path. And what you're doing by the pure act of leading the way that you guys are leading is you're going to start attracting those same like-minded people. And then it just becomes fun. And I know that, Brayden, I keep bringing up Kinder Reese and NAEA, but, I'm only bringing that up for a reason, because it had the biggest, if I could point to one thing, it was the relationships that were formed as a result of. Sorry, guys, somebody called me. Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, you're back.
All right, cool. So that's kind of what, I want to share with anybody listening, is that, you really want to link up to a great group of people. Going at it alone is not only harder, but it isn't as fun. And so it's got to be fun.
Yeah.
And, I'm thankful and grateful every day. Man, I was thankful and grateful 4 years ago, of the group and the circle I'm in. But today, it's even better than it was even 12 months ago. And a lot of that's just because I'm seeing the you young guys coming in, these young gunners, and you're learners. Because by the way, it's a choice what you guys are doing, right? Because the other thing you could be doing is looking up at us old guys and saying, they're just old, they're old crotchety guy. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. We're gonna do our thing. That's a choice. That's definitely a choice. And I can tell you this, it's rare. It's rare for people that are your age in your 20s looking at guys like us in our 40s and actually saying, you know what? Yeah, they're doing it right. I mean, a lot of people, they want to do their own path and not be learners. So I applaud you guys for being learners.
We're just trying to model you successful people.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a big thing, that the reason why we asked you to be on this live, and we're going to be doing 2 more segments, is we were sitting there the one day, and we all three of us realized, like, not to mention that all three of our mentors are in similar circles, but the fact that we all had a mentor that we looked up to in similar circles, and then we all end up the same way. We didn't plan it that way, but it just shows that when you surround yourself with the right people, more of the right people tend to come around.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have probably heard this cliche from maybe your parents, but if you haven't heard it, then I'll share it with you right now. When you guys become parents, by the way, are any of you parents that you know of?
No.
Not that we know of.
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. So let's just pretend you don't have any kids that you know of right now. But when you do have your first child, your life changes. And for as much success as you have, you want 10 times, you want 10x more success for your kids. And so I know what's going to happen because I see the path you're on right now. You're going to see 10x more success than any of your mentors if you stay on the path, and you're going to innovate better than we did. You're going to think of better ways. You're going to look at the ways, because our ways right now, they might be great now, but they're going to be antiquated in 20 years. Now, the principles probably will not change because principles are principles. That's why they often call them laws, right? Because those just don't change. But what does change is technology. And so you guys are, I hope, going to take this and run with it and find better ways and constantly be finding a better way. And it doesn't mean that you have to, reinvent the wheel. That's not what I'm talking about. But you're going to innovate. Right. You're going to innovate. And I can't remember the question, but we were talking some good stuff right there.
Yeah. So I think one of the ways of the innovation, and Brayden might need to hop off here. I know you said you had a call right at this time, but I'm going to stay on for a couple more minutes here. So one of the ways that we innovated the 100 Zero groups was actually Brayden's idea, was adding another element to it that you brought to the table. So the element that we added to it was, what was your highest ROI activity of the week? So that way, instead of just having your goals, which are great, we're bringing something that might not have made the goal sheet, that brought in the most amount of money for the week. And then we took it a step further, and then all three of us, or if two of us are able to hop on, and we go live with them, and then we share it with the community. So what was our spotlight of the week, highest ROI activity, and we bring someone to the center stage to share with the community.
Very nice. I love it.
Right on. Yeah, so that being said, Garrett and Brayden, did you have any more questions for us?
Man, not that I can think of. We could probably pick Al's brain all day, but
I got one little thing to add to your agenda. If and Nick, you were at John Kitchen's training event that he did here in Cleveland a couple of weeks back. Yeah. And if you remember the 9 box, and look, the highest ROI activity, I love that, and I would recommend you keep that. I would add highest leveraged activity, because at the end of the day, you guys have to understand that if do you want a job or do you want a business? And if the goal is to own a business, then the reason you want a business is because the business works for you. You don't work for it. And the only way to grow a business is to leverage. And you leverage technology and you leverage human resources or people, right?
Right.
So another thing that you might want to this is just an awareness, okay? If I'm a real estate agent and I'm young, and one of my coaches and mentors, since we're talking about it, John Sheplack, if anybody's listening to this, you should follow John Sheplack. You should follow Jay Kinder. You should follow Michael Reese. You should follow John Kitchens.
Follow Al Stasek.
Follow Al Stasek. Albie Stasek and Al Stasek. Follow both of my pages there. So what I'm getting at is the thing that, and I met John at the first EGS in 2010 that I attended. And the one thing he said is that if you want to grow your business, then you need to be replacing yourself every day. And what does that mean? It means taking your low leveraged activities, your low dollar per hour activities, and getting them off your plate. And obviously you need money to do that. So you're going to have to wear all the hats because you have to. You have no other option. But as soon as you start to grow some capital and put some core capital away, unless you want a job the rest of your life and really run a one-man show and do everything yourself, that's good if you want to control everything, but it's not good if you ever want to go on a vacation and actually, keep your customers happy. You're going to need to leverage. And again, technology and humans. So I would just say focus on your high leveraged activities. Identify what those are. And when you guys are doing your accountability, that just might be another thing of keeping awareness. Is this a high leverage activity or is this a low leverage activity? A low leverage activity is stabbing a sign in the yard. A low leverage activity is, going around, doing courier stuff, which by the way, I've done all this stuff. So I'm not making fun of it. What I'm saying is that when you, as a business decision, get rid of and hire to the low leverage activities so that you can do the $200, the $300 per hour work, the $500 per hour work. My coach gets paid $1,000 per hour. I want you guys to comprehend that. Half an hour call every week, half an hour, and it's $500. So that's obviously a very high paid mentor I have, right? High paid coach.
Yeah.
Now, you're either doing $1,000 an hour work or you're doing $10 an hour work. And so do you see where, my coach has himself highly leveraged? And, I just want you guys to kind of think about that and what activities
great.
are those? Yeah.
No, I think that'll be a great thing to add to the group, especially at the younger standard. There's a lot more room to leverage, I'm sure. There's a lot of things that, especially sharing as a collective, that we can figure out what are ways that we can leverage, especially using the team. A lot of us have a lot of team that we're probably not utilizing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the team is your human resources, right? So that's the leverage that you get from surrounding on a team. Speaking of high dollar per hour activities, where do you want me to send my bill for this?
So you send it to Brayden.kinder.
Hey, whoa.
There we go.
Whoa, now.
So I'm leveraging Brayden right there. So I'm already learning from my mentor. That's what we do. No, but Al, man, you dropped a lot of knowledge on this group here, not just us, but everybody else in the 100 Young and Hungry group. And no, I appreciate you coming on. And I know it's like we said,
appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
So
my
stay
pleasure,
tuned for a lot
guys.
more. What's up?
It's my pleasure. I'm honored that you even had me on, and I love working with you guys, and I'm looking most forward to, when it feels like this is just the beginning all the time, you're onto something good.
Right.
And it does feel like we're at the beginning, of something great, because we are. And so we'll see you guys at the top.
Yeah, or from the top.
From the top.
Yeah, guys, joining the 100 Young and Hungry group. Message me. We'll get you all signed up. We got times on Sunday. We meet every week. So, you're going to learn more from a lot of our mentors and much, much more. But besides that, thanks, guys, for taking your time today. Let's win the day.
All right.
All right.
Great, guys.
Al.
Great job, guys.